We have tons of news to talk about this week, such as a big game getting a PSVR2 update, which I think looks phenomenal, and we will talk about that. Sony's increasing prices of even more of their hardware, which obviously sucks. We've got a new limited edition DualSense controller on the way, which looks pretty cool. There's a big survey which we'll look at where they have revealed the number one reason why gamers buy PlayStation or Xbox, which we will be discussing. And we've also got clarity on this PlayStation digital games, DRM, digital games ownership fiasco, which has been going on the past couple of days. So we will make all of that clear to you. And yeah, it's a jam-packed show. So grab your coffee mug, get your favourite coffee in it, and let's get into the quick news right now. So a game I'm really hyped for this year, which is Star Wars Galactic Racer, now has a release date, and it is the end of this year it's coming out, which is the 6th of October 2026. And the more I see of this game, the more hyped I am, because like many of you out there, there's probably a little hole in your gaming life which Wipeout has left. We've not had a new Wipeout game in forever. This looks like it could scratch that itch, and being that a lot of this looks like it's pod racing and stuff like that, I grew up when The Phantom Menace, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released at the cinema. It's the only movie ever I've went to see twice at the cinema. So as soon as I saw this with pod racing, I thought, yes, sign me up. But there is some more interesting details which have came to light about this game. And one is that they've described this as a runs-based Star Wars racing adventure, which definitely makes it feel like there's something we don't know yet that has not been revealed about the gameplay. I'm wondering if this is going for a kind of roguelite or roguelike mechanic here, you know, upgrading your spaceship and stuff, going for more runs and races, then back to the start again. Who knows? I think the new Carmageddon game was doing something similar, so this could be a cool take on this. It might not just be a straight up arcade racer. Either way, it looks awesome. There's 12-player multiplayer racing, which you know is going to be absolute chaos. I do hope, though, there's weapons in this. Let me know what you all thought about back in the day Wipeout. There was versions of Wipeout with weapons, and you know there was then ones which didn't have weapons. I always preferred a Wipeout race where you picked up, you know, weapon perks, driving about the track, and you could use them on your opponents. I really hope they do something like that in this game. I know that might not be lore accurate. I'm not a big Star Wars buff, so I might be wrong. But when I think back to Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, there wasn't really weapons between the pod racers. I think Sebulba threw like a spanner or a wrench, and it went into another one of the pod racers' engines, and it blew up, and it was spectacular, the big crash. I hope we get big spectacular crashes like that in this game as well. But weapons in this would be a really nice addition. So Star Wars Galactic Racer, obviously, you'll be able to pick up this physically and digitally. There's also there's a deluxe edition, which is £54 or $80 US or €80. And then there's actually a collector's edition if you're big into your Star Wars and want this, and it's £140 or £160. I've actually got a little image of it right here. I'll put on screen, and check this out. You get an actual land speeder model. To be fair, it looks kind of bland. They could have put a bit of a splash of colour on this, like, you know, a yellow one, like you can see here. This looks like a kind of like the Naboo fighters from Episode 1. Maybe that's what they're meant to look like. But a bit of colour would be a bit better here for this, I think. But if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, you're going to love this one. And your wallet is not going to, as it will cost you a lot of money. So when this drops on the 6th of October, are you excited to dive in for your first pod race on PlayStation 5? You better believe I am. Our next piece of quick news is the Outer Worlds, out of the blue, is getting a PS5 upgrade for free. So Obsidian Entertainment has announced that PS5 players will receive a free upgrade to its beloved 2019 PS4 action RPG, provided that they own a copy of the original game and its DLC. The Outer Worlds original PS4 version and its add-on will no longer be available to purchase on most platforms starting May the 27th, 2026. So it looks like it's getting delisted. So on May 27th, all existing The Outer Worlds PS4 base game owners will be upgraded to the PS5 only 2023 Spacer's Choice Edition for free. And then on that same date, the launch version will be delisted. Wow. So there you go. If you have that on PS4, you're in for a treat. It says here there's a caveat though. You need to own the PS4 game and its DLC to get the Spacer's Choice Edition for free. So keep that in mind. And at the time of recording here, the Outer Worlds PS4 and its DLC are not on sale right now, but keep your eyes peeled. They may go on sale just before they get delisted. If they do, I will let you know here on the podcast. Now, PSVR2 is not a thing which I have picked up or purchased. VR doesn't agree with me. I've not tried PSVR2. I tried PSVR1. It did make me feel quite sick, motion sickness. But this looks like it could be the game which twists my arm to maybe pick up PSVR2, especially if I can get it on sale on a deal, because I love planes. I just have done since a kid. I've got a thing about them. And now Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, the latest PS5 update, adds PSVR2 support. Now, how good does this look? Now, this is where I think games like this work with PSVR. So like Gran Turismo works, I think, well with PSVR because you're simulating what it would be like in real life. You sit in a seat. You're not like moving about. You're not, when I say moving about, I mean you're not using your legs. You're sitting there, right? And the car's moving. So it simulates what it is like driving a car. Same with flying a plane. You'd be sitting there in charge of the plane and everything's moving around you. For me, the immersion breaks in games when it's like you're meant to be running about and doing stuff, but you're just standing static. Unless you've got a ton of money and you've got one of these 360 treadmills, you know. But this looks freaking awesome. And some details: explore new heights with the free PlayStation VR2 update available now for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. This new true-to-life experience delivers an enhanced level of authenticity in simulated flying for both fans and newcomers alike. With 125 different aircraft to fly, each with a unique experience via virtual reality, you're closer than ever to experiencing the incredible sensation of flight. Straight from your console, the sky is calling. Now, look at this. The footage, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, it looks incredible. Fighter jets, big, passenger aircraft, helicopters. It looks absolutely incredible. I really want to try this. If I could play this and I didn't get motion sickness, I think I would get quite hooked. This looks like it would be the way to play Microsoft Flight Simulator. And if you're watching this again, that big beluga aircraft, big transport aircraft, imagine flying that beast, the whale of the sky. I would love to fly the A380. That would be my pick. I would fly that, and also the jumbo jet. I just love those planes. Fantastic. Or I don't know, is Concorde in this? That would be a cool throwback. Just blaze across the Atlantic. Anyways, PSVR 2 people, yay or nay? And is this a game which might make you reconsider? Let me know in the comments. Now, in our last bit of quick news, Sony is increasing the price of refurbished PlayStation 5 consoles now. So we had this big price increase across the globe where they raised the prices of the PlayStation 5 base console, the PS5 Pro, the PS5 Digital Edition console, and the Portal, all by a decent amount all over the world. And the kind of only remaining way to get one direct from Sony on the cheap was to get an officially refurbished one. But now those cheaper prices will be no more, as buying them direct from PlayStation Direct, that is the PlayStation Direct website, the refurbished PS5 Digital Edition has increased from $400 to $500, while the PS5 with a disc drive has increased from $450 to $550. Jeez, so the price was likely done in order to keep the price of a refurbished PS5 console, $100 below the price of the new console, because that's what they used to be. So it's looking like slim pickings for getting a cheaper PlayStation 5 console these days. My recommendation would be just save up for one. Don't buy any of these rental schemes where you rent a PlayStation console and then you don't own anything at the end of it. That is just a bad move. Save up for one, and then when there will be sales round about times like Black Friday and Christmas and all these big holiday sale events. There'll definitely be sales then, and then you can pick up one then if you've not got one already, or your cheaper option might be get a Portal just now and a PlayStation Plus subscription, and that is a cheap way to get you into the PlayStation ecosystem while you save up for a PlayStation 5 console. But these price increases are bizarre. This is probably the only console generation I can remember that as time has went on, the consoles have all gradually got more expensive instead of, usually being like half the price they were at launch. Not good, people. So who knows what this is going to mean for the PS6. We better start saving up right now for the PlayStation 6 probably. That's the smart move. Now, if you're shaken and not stirred and want a new DualSense controller, you want to be not the man with the golden gun, but the man with the golden DualSense controller. 007 First Light, which is the new Bond game, which has a release date penciled in for May the 27th. And the pre-orders are live for this as well. If you want to go and pick up a copy, it'll be available on PS5, obviously. And we've now got, along with the PS5 game, we've got the golden 007 DualSense controller. Pre-orders are available for this right now, and it is $85 in the US, which is, I think, around about $10 more than you'd spend on the standard, colour, like, midnight or white. And in the UK, it is available from Amazon. I'll leave a link down below in the description if you want to pick one up and help out the channel at the same time. And it's for £75. So if you're a big James Bond fan and you need a new controller, this one looks quite cool, and it's crafted to celebrate the return of James Bond to video games, blending legacy and modernity to create a controller that feels unmistakably 007 from the moment you see it. Let us know if you're going to be picking one up in the comments. 007 Game on Twitter said, will you be picking up this new James Bond game and the controller? I think the game looks pretty good. Controller, I don't really pick up these limited edition controllers much. It would need to be a game that I'm just a huge fan of. But this one looks nice. Let me know if you'll be picking these up in May the 27th. So Game Rant has got us pondering the question here. What do you think the number one reason that gamers buy a PlayStation or Xbox console is? I wonder what this could be. Something we've been speaking a lot about on the channel. And this comes from Circana, an American market research and technology company. And they have shown that most US gamers still decide whether to buy a PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, or other console based on their exclusive games. This likely won't surprise most gamers, as it's been the case for years. In other news, water is wet. Yes, the reason I want to discuss this though is because Microsoft and Xbox have been feeding out the narrative for the past couple of years since they've went like third party that exclusives don't matter. It just doesn't matter at all anymore. We're just giving, all our games to PlayStation, to Switch, to PC. It doesn't matter anymore. Which we know is not the case, and there's another story later on where we discuss some of Xbox's results, which comes right back round to this. However, a few subtle shifts in consumer behaviour in 2026 could catch their attention, especially for those invested in the long-running console rivalry between PlayStation and Xbox. See, I don't care about like a rivalry in terms of one team, winning or beating the other. I think it's important because we need competition to keep them on their toes, keep them honest, keep them providing the best games, services and value they can. Because if there's only one player in the market, if PlayStation's dominant or if Xbox is dominant, they get greedy, they get complacent, they get lazy. We do not want that, right? Especially in this economy and in this world, like we want to get good stuff for our money. And it says here, one noticeable change compared to last year's data is that the number of players choosing a console based on exclusives has dropped 8%. In other words, there's a slight shift downwards. There's a slight shift towards picking the best gaming console based on other factors, such as performance or price. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly what's driving this change, but its likely explanation is Xbox and PlayStation loosening their grip on exclusive IPs over the past year, with games like Forza Horizon coming to PS5 and Helldivers 2 launching on the Xbox Series X and S. The second reason might be the tiebreaker in the console war. So, despite the 8% decline, the Circana Q1 2026 report shows that a majority of consumers in the US, 41% of those surveyed, still view big budget exclusives as the deciding factor when purchasing a console. The second most common reason could serve as a tiebreaker for companies like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch, with 38% of consumers choosing a console based on what their friends and family already own. This likely comes down to convenience, as it's easier to share games on the same platform and, more importantly, avoid concerns about cross-platform support and multiplayer titles. Makes sense, I guess. Now, Xbox might be losing ground. Based on Circana's observations, Microsoft's Xbox consoles may not be in a good position right now. The Xbox Series X and S has already faced criticism for its lack of AAA exclusives, and recent layoffs and studio closures at Microsoft have cast uncertainty over the future of several key IPs. On top of that, a recent financial report shows that Xbox's hardware revenue declined by 32% in Q2, further weakening the brand's position in the current market. We'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later on in the show. However, this 32% drop in Q2, we need to keep in mind here their hardware declines. It's been like 30% pretty much the past 3 or 4 quarters. It's just constantly dropping by like 30% or more. It is really not good. The article goes on. Meanwhile, Sony appears to have a stronger lineup of PS5 exclusives, with major titles like Marvel's Wolverine, Galactic, The Heretic Prophet, and Fizzant on the horizon. Some also believe that the Japanese company has already solidified its position in the market, with financially and critically acclaimed exclusives such as Ghost of Yotai and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. As for the Nintendo Switch 2, it may not offer as many exclusives as the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5. I would argue that's interesting. The Xbox Series X, I don't know. The Nintendo Switch 2, I mean, their exclusives are true exclusives. You can only play them there. Like Xbox's exclusives, whatever ones it still does have left, you can usually play them all on PC. PlayStation 5 has some that are only on their console. I feel like they'll be pivoting more towards that to protect their console sales going into the end of the PS5 generation and then into the PS6 generation. However, it continues to draw millions of players, this is the Nintendo Switch, with a handful of globally popular IPs such as Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. Both are great games. The latest Mario Kart installment alone has sold over 14 million copies, showcasing the impressive success Nintendo has achieved with its exclusives so far. Circana's report suggests that a multi-platform strategy may not be the most effective approach for major companies like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. In the coming years, particularly as next-generation consoles arrive, it will be interesting to see how each brand adjusts its strategy around exclusives and if any of them will rethink their approach. I think exclusives are so important for consoles. It is a differentiator as to why you would buy them. I am in a lucky position. I own all of them. I own a PS5, I've got an Xbox, and I've got Switch 2. I bought each of them for like access to their exclusives, and I think that's a good thing because it's that competitive edge. It's exclusives used to be a way to showcase what your console could really do, what it was all about. You know, it would have the best graphics, the best gameplay. Xbox, unfortunately, has lost their way over the past couple of years. A lot of their games were really poor. They had a really big drought for a couple of years, which was annoying because the Xbox Series X hardware is really good. It's a really freaking good console. The Series S, a lot of people hate it. I think it's a really good budget console. I bought a Series S before I had a Series X. My lineup for this generation was right away, I ordered the PS5 with the disc drive, the base PS5 that was. And then I also ordered the Xbox Series S. So that was my thing. I'll get that. I can get, cheap Game Pass for this because Game Pass was really cheap back then. There was a lot of deals where you could get 3 years of Game Pass for the price of 1 year by stacking codes from other countries, which is what I did. And then, I enjoyed it. It was good fun. There was a lot of, fun games for me. Particularly, it was like Forza Horizon. They were the big games there. And Xbox exclusives weren't that good. The thing which salvaged Game Pass for me back then was all the indie games I could check out. PS5 was a place for all the big games. And then I got a Series X later on. But then Xbox decided, the infamous, we're testing it with 4 games. 4 games are going to PlayStation, and then the floodgates have just opened. My Xbox is pretty much a YouTube player just now. A YouTube player and a backwards compatibility machine. I love playing the old Xbox 360 and original Xbox games on my Xbox consoles. They should lean more into that. I think that is one of the best selling points of Xbox. Hopefully they restart that program. But this just goes to show that having no exclusives does not help your console or your platform. It doesn't even help Game Pass. Like, people will just be like, well, I can get a PlayStation and I can access all the PlayStation exclusives and I can play all the Microsoft or the Xbox exclusives too. What is the point of owning an Xbox? I know a lot of you won't agree and you say, oh, it's anti-consumer. It's not anti-consumer because without this, there's no competition. You just have this generic box and then the prices will just keep rising. We need competition between them. Anyways, I thought this was interesting. This is getting more press because the Xbox CEO, Asha Sharma, seems to be talking a lot more about exclusives. We spoke about this on last week's podcast, which I think you should go and check out. But for me, I think there is a place for all these studios and consoles to have first-party exclusives and also to have some of their first-party games go on to other platforms. So for me, multiplayer games, live service games, yeah. So like on Xbox, say you've got Sea of Thieves, and on PlayStation you had like Helldivers 2. It makes sense for them to go on to the other platforms. They just need lots of players to sustain the game. However, your big single-player like tentpole releases, like Wolverine, for example, and then let's say Xbox had an amazing new Halo game on the horizon, which has an amazing campaign. They should be exclusive. I think they should. Forza Horizon 6, that's where it gets interesting though. Should that stay exclusive on Xbox? A lot of PlayStation players loved that on PS5. If I was in charge of Xbox, I would keep it exclusive. But I know a lot of people wouldn't like that because they'll say it's kind of like a live service game. Kind of is, kind of isn't. To me, I play it as a single player game. I don't do any of the like online stuff really with it. So yeah, that is my take on that. And I find this very interesting because I think it is all going to change a little bit as we move into the next generation. I think Sony has seen maybe the error in their ways and they're watching what Nintendo's doing. And I think they want to emulate that a little bit more. By protecting their IPs, because then that protects the value of any of their other products. Nintendo's just going to keep being Nintendo, and then Xbox has tried to pivot, do something different, has not worked, and now they're going to potentially pivot back. I think Xbox has done so much damage to their brand the past couple of years. It's a shame. I just hope this new CEO sorts it out. And I would start with having some really good single player exclusive games that you can only get on Xbox. You can only play there. That would be a good start. I still don't think timed exclusives work. I don't think that's a thing. If they say, like they've done with Forza Horizon 6, yep, it's coming out, like soon on Xbox, and then it comes out 3 months or 6 months later on PlayStation, that's not going to make anyone jump over to Xbox. That's going to make people just go, all right, cool, I'll just wait for it. I just don't think timed exclusives work. I think it needs to be, it's an exclusive on that console, or it's not. Just let it out to everyone to play. Very interesting times in 2026 for exclusives. Do you think exclusives matter? That is the question. Let me know in the comments. Now, Xbox knows it has got work to do. Their CEO, Asha Sharma, has commented on Xbox's latest financials as everything is going down again. Hardware revenue declined by 30% last quarter, while overall Xbox revenue declined by 5%. This is wild. I wish they would give us a lot more detail in this, because every single quarter for it feels like the past, I don't know, year or two. It's probably even more. It's just been down, 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 down. And it goes on to say here, Microsoft's Q3 earnings report for the 3-month period ending March 31st showed that Xbox content and services revenue was down 5% based on the same period last year. Hardware revenue, meanwhile, declined 33% year on year. I mean, Xbox isn't even for sale in some parts of the world now. It's just like a ghost. It's just gone. So this is currently a recurring situation for Xbox. Its Q2 earnings result also showed a year-on-year decline of 5% and 32% respectively, while Q1 showed a growth of 1% in content and services, but a 29% decline in hardware revenue. It's not looking good, right? So reacting to the latest financial results, Sharma, who took over from Phil Spencer in late February and therefore wasn't in charge during most of the Q3 fiscal period, posted on X that Xbox will have to continue to work hard to turn around fortunes. Xbox earnings today, she wrote, "While we have made progress expanding the business and our margins, player and revenue growth has not met our ambition. We know we have work to do to earn every player today and into the future." During an earnings call discussing the latest financial results, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella made a number of references to Xbox, noting that foundational work is currently being put in place to win back fans and strengthen engagement. Oh, it's really not that difficult. Like, come on, just stop shooting yourself in the foot. Like, you massively increased the prices of your consoles. You doubled the price of Xbox Game Pass. You gave away all your exclusives to your competitors. You didn't release any good exclusives for like years, it felt like. You went and bought Activision for like 70 billion. You then put it into Game Pass, then it doesn't make a difference. Then you take it back out. You then reduce Game Pass, but you still have it higher in price than it was before your price increase. Keep it simple. Go back to good exclusive games only for Xbox. You've got enough studios to do that, right? I actually think as well they should at this point scrap Game Pass or copy the model that PS Plus has, where none of this day one game stuff. They've conditioned so many of their user base to not actually buy the games. Like, games are like a piece of art, but Game Pass almost makes it just like, just expendable content. It's like Netflix just scrolling through stuff. Yep, no, I'll play it for 5 minutes, play it for 5 minutes. It's just not good for gaming, I think. And then they wonder why no one is buying Xbox, because they've eliminated a lot of the reasons you would want to own one. I feel they've done so much damage, and I hope they can turn this around, as I say, because we need competition. We can't have Sony just being the lone wolf out here. He also went on to say, Nadella said that the Xbox team is recommitting to our core fans and players and shaping the future of play, adding last week's Game Pass changes are one example of how we are staying responsive to customer feedback. Hey, let's be honest, this is a lot of bullshit, isn't it, right? So, is recommitting to our core fans. They've said that all along they were, so are they now admitting that they were not committed to their core fans? So people who actually forked out their hard-earned cash for an Xbox console were just kind of cast aside, and then everything was an Xbox. They were like actively pushing you to play your Xbox on like a Fire Stick, that instead of buying a console, which is a far worse experience streaming via Xbox cloud game streaming versus actually playing it locally on your console. So it's just so stupid, right? And then last week's Game Pass changes are one example of how we're staying responsive to customer feedback. This is good because so many people cancelled and downgraded their Game Pass after the price increase. This is the only language companies understand, people. Voting with your wallets. So everyone who did that, well done. Mine's is stacked to 2027. Once it runs out, I'm done. I just don't have the need for it anymore. He also noted that Xbox set new records for monthly Xbox active users in this quarter, as well as game streaming hours. I would love to see a lot more detail on this. They always throw out these vague statements. What is an actual Xbox active user these days? Because the amount of games they own, they probably count people who play on Call of Duty and Minecraft and stuff like that. I would love to see all the detail about this, right? Because they don't give you any other hard sales numbers. It'd be good if we saw actual sales numbers for consoles and stuff like that, and for Game Pass subscriptions, but we don't get told that. During the same presentation, Microsoft CFO Amy Hood warned that a quick turnaround for Xbox isn't realistic. No, I mean, no surprise there, right? And that it expects to see year-on-year declines in the Q4 period ending June 30th too, so they expect it to keep going down. In Xbox content and services, we expect revenue to decline into the low teens, reflecting a prior year comparable that benefited from strong first-party content, as well as the recent price changes for Xbox Game Pass as we focus on delivering more value to gamers. Who'd noted hardware revenue should decline year over year. Like, I really think the Series X generation was one of the generations they had a really good chance to make a good go of it, because they owned so many studios. Like, they're probably they must be the biggest publisher on the planet right now. They own so many studios. Even before they bought Activision, and then they bought Bethesda before that as well, they still had tons of studios, but they just could not get games out that were good quality. I feel like that was a big opportunity missed, because Sony hasn't been firing on all cylinders this year. Let's be honest, they've just been kind of cruising, right? They had this fascination with live service games, which has come back to bite them on the butt, because, I mean, we just need to think of Concord. That's all we need to say. We've had something like Concord happen, which is just shocking. You know, they're still trying to push Marathon on. We've got, I think it was Fair Games is still to be coming. So they have this fascination with stuff like that, and they've moved away from a lot of the core that made PlayStation really special, I would have said, which was a lot of these unique single player experiences. We've still had them, but I would say maybe not as often as we would have expected this generation, because it started with a bang with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. That was just an amazing game. So the door was there for Xbox to make a bit of a dent, I feel, because the Xbox Series X hardware was awesome, really good console, and supposedly on paper, better hardware and, you know, more powerful than PS5, but that didn't seem to translate into any of the games which were third party and available on both systems. The PS5 regularly outperformed it when you watch a lot of the like Digital Foundry's breakdowns on the games and things like that. So it was very, very strange. And now everything just seems like it's in the toilet, and they're trying to course correct. So I hope they do. I've said this many times. I am an Xbox fan. I love Xbox as well. I've got Series X, Series S, and an Xbox One that are all plugged in right now. Pretty much only use them for backwards compatible games, playing Xbox 360 games, and for the odd indie game on Game Pass and YouTube. I love watching YouTube on it. It's basically like my YouTube player. So they've now said that Microsoft Gaming is no more. It's now known as Xbox. Sharma said this last week in our mission statement for Xbox. And it mentions here they've also slashed the price of the highest Game Pass tier, which was Ultimate, and PC Game Pass last week, with Sharma claiming that the service has become too expensive for players. The platform holder also removed future Call of Duty launches from Game Pass, with analysts speculating that its inclusion into the service had made little impact on subscriber numbers, which is just bizarre. I didn't think the Activision purchase was a good thing at the time. A lot of the Xbox fanboy, you know, channels, let's call them that, on YouTube were just singing its praise. It's going to be the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. It was just such a huge purchase. And you knew as soon as that happened, Microsoft, you know, that just its laser beam eye just focused right on it, being like, right, when are we getting our money back then? So yeah, I hope Xbox turn it around. They've got a lot of work to do. Asha seems to be saying all the right things right now. Not much action has happened, but these things, this is a juggernaut you're trying to turn around. This is like an oil tanker you're trying to turn around. So I don't think it'll happen quickly. I hope they make the right decisions, get back to focusing on your core, the one that's kept you afloat this whole time, the Xbox console owners. Focus on them. To be fair, they have done one or two console updates the other day. I noticed the dashboard had changed. It looks a little bit sleeker and a little bit quicker. So fingers crossed, this is the moment of reckoning. They're going to take it serious. It's a shame. It sounds like it's right at the end of the Series X and S generation they're getting serious with it. It begs the question, like, for the past 2 or 3 years, within Xbox, like actually what the hell has been going on? What have they been doing? Sound off in the comments if you have any views on this, because I hope they do it. We need a strong Xbox to keep a strong PlayStation, in my opinion. We now have clarity on this PlayStation DRM fiasco, which was going on last week, and the internet was losing its mind. PlayStation players were not happy. Sony has finally decided to speak up about it. They did leave this cooking for a few days. They could have squashed this right away, but no, just let people run wild with it for a few days. Push Square are reporting here after almost 5 days of silence. Yep, so 5 days this was going on for. The inferno of PlayStation players' rage was burning for 5 days strong. Sony has finally issued a statement on the PS5 and PS4 game expiry issue. Now, if you don't know what this is, go and watch last week's podcast, but the TLDR of it is that it looked like every 30 days your digital games had to check in with an online server so you could retain access to play them offline. So for example, if you bought a digital game and then you're playing it and then 30 days expire and say you were not online, you could not play the game because at 30 days it needed to check back in. That isn't exactly the case, but this is what we thought was going on, but now we know what it is. So Sony finally issued a statement on this PS4 and PS5 game expiry issue. GameSpot was the publication lucky enough to get a response from the platform holder, and it reads, players can continue to access and play their purchased games as usual. A one-time online check is required to confirm the game's license, after which no further check-ins are required. So it's not every 30 days, but there is a check-in at one point. It's still not entirely clear whether that check needs to come 14 days after the purchase or can be done immediately. By taking the spokesperson's word at face value, all you need to do is connect to the internet once, and from that point onwards, your game will work like normal, regardless of whether you're online or offline. Seeing as this primarily affects digital games, which need to be downloaded from the internet, of course, then this sounds like a non-issue. This image on Retro Handhelds GG explains it nicely. When we originally bought the game before this March update, you got a permanent license right away when you bought a digital game. Now, after March, there's an online check-in window after the refund period ends and before this 30-day window, this 30-day timer we saw on these games ends. And the idea here is that this exceeds the 2-week refund window. So it's therefore speculated that some people had been downloading games and then immediately taking their consoles offline and then requesting a refund and then retaining ownership of the game. Whereas this new licensing system is designed to combat that. So I guess that explains a lot as why a lot of people have been seeing this 30-day expiry timer, which we spoke about on the previous video, disappearing. But I wonder how many people were actually taking advantage of this for Sony to change this so that it impacts everybody. So your games will retain a permanent license after the 30-day check-in, and your digital purchases should be fine online and offline. This article goes on with a nice roundup here where it says, are we happy with this? I want you all to let me know in the comments if you're happy with this too. They say, ideally, we want to own our digital purchases in the same way we have physical media. Exactly, people. Physical media for the win. Always buy your games physically, I say. History and policy show that this just isn't the case. In a world where DRM is getting tighter and digital distribution is dependent on having active servers, the expectation that you own your digital purchases is nearly moot unless you actively have the game files on your open system and DRM is removed, like with good old games and itch.io purchases. Steam, Nintendo, Sony, Xbox, Epic, etc. have adopted the limited license policy to allow people to legally purchase something and the company publisher to still maintain control over it. Limited licenses are common in the arts media world and are used to protect the creator/copyright holder's assets. It is a messy situation with video games since you can't exactly have someone play your game without giving out your assets, so DRM is used to control how their games are played and collectively annoy us. It does indeed. So just keep on buying your physical games, people. Push Square are reporting that millions of you in the United States could be eligible for compensation PSN credit, and it's all because of a $7.85 million class action lawsuit which Sony has agreed to settle. This is one of many similar legal battles the Japanese giant is currently fighting, and it pertains to the manufacturer's decision to stop selling digital game vouchers via retail. While you can snag denominations of PSN credit from most major third-party stores, the platform holder famously ceased selling game-specific vouchers in April 2019, which entitled you to purchase digital games from a variety of different shops. This is alleged as an example of Sony monopolising the market because it eliminates the competition which naturally occurs between various different retailers, thus forcing consumers to overpay for downloadable software. I just feel digital games in general, they just force you to overpay. That's why I always buy my games physically from the store, which has the best offer. Anyways, therefore, you may receive compensation if you meet the following criteria and you're from the United States. So number one, you bought a digital game on the PS Store between the 1st of April 2019 and the 31st of December 2023. That game previously had a voucher sold at retail. That voucher was sold at scale, so at least 200 units were purchased before April 2019, and the game's price increased after vouchers disappeared. Specifically, the average price consumers paid for the game was at least 50 cents higher after April 2019 compared to before April 2019. You can find the full list of eligible games through here, which includes a whole bunch of games like The Last of Us Remastered, Infamous, First Light, and God of War 3 Remastered. So let's have a look at this list really quickly so you can see. Whoa, there is a lot of games on this list. You may want to just freeze the video here. Right, there's absolutely loads of games here. So there's the second page. 2 pages worth. So there's a high chance you may have bought one of these. A fairness hearing on this case is scheduled to take place on the 15th of October this year, and the settlement will only be provided once that is fully approved. Should it go through, however, anyone who's eligible will be credited with a share of the 7.85 million settlement as compensation directly into their PSN wallet. So it sounds like you won't need to do much, you might just get this. Also, it is unlikely that this is the last lawsuit of its kind, with many other similar legal cases currently underway across Europe and the UK. So you might get a couple of dollars into your PSN wallet at the end of this year. At Christmas time, you maybe pick up a game on sale. Wanted to let you all know in case this one has passed you by. Mind's Eye is back in the press, my friends. They're trying to right the ship here. It's not had a good release, this game, to say the least. Build a Rocket Boy, Scottish studio, yes, they are indeed. And they are behind 2025's... Would we say this was the biggest flop of the year? I don't know. Mind's Eye. But they're not giving up, so we need to give them some credit for that. And what are they doing to try and salvage this mess? So, first of all, they are permanently reducing the price of the game to $34.99 or to £29.99 in the UK. And the deluxe edition will drop to $47.99 or £34.99. And there's now a full 2-hour trial for PS Plus Premium members to try. So you can check out 2 hours before you decide to splash the cash. And this is the interesting part here, which you can see on screen if you're watching this, is it's continuing to iterate on their open world game this week with the release of a free new mission named Blacklisted. From what we understand, this was originally intended to feature Agent 47, from Hitman, as Hitman maker IO originally published the game, but they have since severed all ties with the studio, so that is not the case anymore. Agent 47 will not be showing up. Instead, we are getting this badass named Julia. And if you've, been paying attention to this whole story, there's a lot of weird stuff been going on with this. With Build a Rocket Boy, they actually accused external saboteurs of ruining the reputation of Mind's Eye. And this mission in the game, which they've added here, where you play as Julia, is supposed to expose that. What that means, I have no idea, but it makes me curious to play this to find out. If you have been watching the podcast for a while, I own this game. I actually bought this. I know they're saying they've reduced the prices here, right? So to £29 in the UK, $29.99 or $35 in the US. That's for the digital game, right? That's too expensive. That's a rip-off. Buy games physically, people. I got this from Amazon for £10. So yeah, it's hopefully worth £10. Bought it for that. It's still in its plastic wrapper. I've not got around to playing it yet. I'm still working my way through my backlog. And as ever, more games launch that I play, and then the backlog gets bigger, and games like Mind's Eye get shoved down the list. So I will definitely check this out. It does look kind of interesting to see what it's all about. And in the press release, the CEO, Mark Gerhard, seemed to suggest this is the beginning of Mind's Eye's post-release support. So we might be getting more campaigns and stuff like that. Blacklisted marks the first new story campaign for Mind's Eye since launch, and we're excited to welcome players back to Red Rock City to experience it in a new way. Rather than a traditional DLC, Blacklisted is delivered through our user-generated content platform, Arcadia, which is built into Mind's Eye. So, is anyone really interested to take a punt at this? I read up on this earlier on, and one thing that I thought was really weird and I didn't like, supposedly this mission, where, you know, the new mission here, which you jump into playing as Julia, Blacklisted, there's no save feature. You can't save it. So you basically need to play the whole way through the mission, or if you stop, you lose all your progress. I would have thought in this day and age that would just be a kind of basic to have in the game. Maybe they'll add that in a future update. Maybe not. I don't know. But I think it looks interesting. It's cool to see they're trying to turn this around. I always wish the best for developers. I hope they get things right. You want every game to have its Cyberpunk 2077 or No Man's Sky moment where they completely turn it around. Will Build a Rocket Boy be able to do this? I hope so. They're Scottish, from my country, so I've got to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope they do turn it around. The actual mission stuff in the trailer, it looks pretty cool. It looks like it could be good fun. I'll reserve judgment until I play it though. But Mind's Eye, it's still in its recovery phase, and we've got a new protagonist to play as in Blacklisted on Mind's Eye. We got another big game arriving in the free-to-play market on the 29th, and it was this game on screen right now, NTE, Neverness to Everness. And this is some footage I captured on the base PlayStation 5. I jumped in and played this on the base PS5, on the PS5 Pro, and on the PlayStation Portal. And I've got to say, I was impressed. The reason I was wanting to try this is because I'd heard people billing it as the anime GTA, yep, Grand Theft Auto. And I totally get that. There's definitely elements of Grand Theft Auto in it. This is an open world RPG, and it is free to play. It's a gacha game. The gacha mechanics in it, though, I would say do seem kind of generous so far. There's also a PlayStation Plus pack, which you can claim if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber. Gives you a bunch of free stuff, get more roles to try and unlock characters. And I've unlocked I think nearly most of the starting roster so far, which is pretty cool. But this game has been really, really impressive. It's kind of like a blend of Zenless Zone Zero, Grand Theft Auto, and Control from Remedy. Why did I say Control? Well, you're kind of like an anime Ghostbuster in this, and you're going around hunting a whole bunch of anomalies, which are these kind of ghost type things. And then you have, you know, your boss battles and all that. It's really, really good. There's lots of side quests to do. You know, you can bond with different characters and stuff like that, going out on outings, just exploring the map. Lots of collectibles to find. The fighting is pretty good in it as well. It's dead fast and fluid, very, very flashy as well. And you know, it's kind of similar to Wuthering Waves combat. And like I said, the gacha mechanic in it so far has been kind of generous, which has been good. I've got most of the main characters, as I mentioned. The visuals and voice acting in this are absolutely top notch. If you're lucky enough to own a PlayStation 5 Pro, I think this is the only free-to-play gacha game which is PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced right now. I might be wrong, but it really looks good. The visuals in this game are absolutely top notch. It's quite a silly vibe so far from what I've played of it. I'm only a couple of hours in, but I've definitely enjoyed it. I'll definitely be checking this out again. And for a free-to-play game, why not give it a go? You've got nothing to lose. Anime GTA, if that sounds like it's right up your street, I think it is well worth playing. Now, this is just first impressions, really, but I've really enjoyed my time with this. I would say I've probably enjoyed my time with this game more than I did with... I'm trying to think the last gacha game I actually put some time into. Probably put a decent amount of time into like Genshin Impact. So I think this could have legs. The Anime GTA open world part of it is just really good fun. Definitely want to play a bit more of this, get a bit more of a well-rounded view on it. But should you check this out? I definitely think you should, especially if you're on PS5 Pro. This game is a looker. It looks really good. You can play this via cloud streaming on your portal as well, and it works really well there. And that's probably an ideal place to play a game like this because you need to do a lot of grinding in these games, to level up your characters, unlock more characters, upgrade their abilities and stuff like that. Playing this on the portal, having a blast every hour or so, half an hour here, half an hour there, whenever you get time. It is a great way to level up your characters. And the fact you can cloud stream it from your owned games section with PS Plus Premium is a big win. Will you be checking out NTE, or is this game not really your vibe? Free-to-play games are not usually my vibe. I do try and check them all out, and I think I'll be working on a video very soon for the channel on the best free-to-play games to play. So let me know if you have any recommendations of free-to-play games which you recommend I should check out. Now for a bit of fun, the Sega Genesis console has been revealed in Lego form, and what really caught my eye was the price. $34.99, and it is arriving on the 1st of June 2026, so not very long to go. $34.99, you might say, Murray, for a bunch of plastic bricks, that's expensive, and yes it is, but for Lego, that is really cheap. I have got the Lego Game Boy, which is sitting over there still in its box, and that was like £55 when it launched, I'm sure. So I wonder if this is really small. There are some pictures, I've not looked through them all. Maybe it'll give us a sense of scale. But what is cool here is you can build it in two ways. So you can build it as the Sega Genesis using certain bricks, or you can switch it over and have it as the Sega Mega Drive. Now, I think this looks cool. The box looks really cool. The controllers, it does look, I'm thinking this might be quite small. I do love the cartridge with Sonic and Tails on it. I do, however, wish it was the actual cartridge sticker, which was on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which it looks like that game's from, because with the Nintendo Game Boy, the actual little cartridges, it's pretty much the same like game art on the little cartridges, which is cool. We've got a little look at the Sega controllers here. I really like this. I'm hyped. I'm excited about this. It looks like there's a little hidden Sonic image within the console as well, which is a nice little Easter egg. And there's what I was telling you about. You can change the buttons because the Sega Mega Drive had red buttons and switches on it, I'm pretty sure it was. And the Genesis, I think, had grey and black. So that's pretty cool. I like this. I do, though, wish, this is nostalgia kicking in. For me, when I was growing up, it was the Sega Mega Drive 2 that my friends had and that I played. So I would like to see a Sega Mega Drive 2. I don't have that same nostalgic pull for the Sega Genesis or the Sega Mega Drive 1. I never had one of them. So I'm not sure about this, what to do. Should I buy one of these? Should I not? I do just love stuff like this. And the fact it's only £35, it's an impulse buy territory. It says here, buildable Sega console, create and display an iconic piece of video game merch with the Lego Sega Genesis console. Two build options, customize the console into the Sega Mega Drive, originally released in Japan in 1988, or the Sega Genesis, originally released in North America in 1989. I can't believe that was when that was released. Jeez, I thought it was like 90s. There you go. But it also comes with 2 detachable controllers and a game card that can be taken out of the console, plus sticker decorations and a Sonic the Hedgehog portrait as an Easter egg. Very cool. Do Sony need to get some of these on the go? We've not had any Sony console Lego. We've had Horizon, so Horizon Forbidden West or Horizon Zero Dawn. We've got the tall neck, which is I've got sitting over there as well. It'd be cool to get like a PlayStation or a PS Vita or PSP or PS2 console. Which console would you like to see in Lego form for your setup? Let me know in the comments and let me know if you'd pick this up for £35. I like the price of this. Will I buy it? Let me know, should I buy this? I'm not sure. And that is a nice news story to end this week's Gaming Coffee Club podcast on. I didn't post a Gaming Coffee Club question of the week in time. It is posted already. It is live right now. We'll discuss it in next week's episode. It's all around this DRM digital stuff and how it will impact PS6 and PS6 handheld. So make sure you head over to the Pure PSX YouTube channel, go to the posts or community posts page and vote and leave a comment, and you could feature in next week's podcast. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next week for more gaming news right here on the Gaming Coffee Club.